Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. As you can see, we're doing gaming again today, thus the name Dare to Game instead of DTG Productions. And if you're curious about that, maybe it's because you haven't watched my history videos, which I highly recommend, and I think you should go check out now. But for this video, we're doing Kingdom Come Deliverance again, and I know it's been a while, or at least a while, since before this one and the last one I released. So let's just pop into some new and exciting things. So as you've seen, Mod Support was released not too long ago. And since then, mods have been slowly churning out, but it's been picking up recently. And today we're going to look at some awesome new weapons that have been added to the game. With all these weapons in mind, I will of course remind you that modding is relatively new to the game, and it seems to be difficult from what I've heard, so there are bugs and stuff associated with it, but it's relatively easily. And as a quick note, for each and every one of these mods, the way to install it is you just download the files manually, and then you extract them into the mods folder in Kingdom Come Deliverance. If you don't have a mods folder, all you have to do is make a folder, label it mods, and extract them into there. That's how these will work. Every time the game updates, it'll put all your mods into an old mods folder, and if you want to reuse them again, you just gotta, do it again. Just put them back into, make a new folder called mods and put them back in there. But in any case, it's pretty easy, and, all of these worked first try for me. So, with that in mind, let's get into the first one I want to take a look at. So this one here is called the Mercenary Sword. That's the name of the mod. As you can see, the title there isn't all that impressive, based on the format that the game generally uses. I don't know if this is going to get more work, and it also doesn't have a custom logo for it. It's just got, I don't know what, the Piercer or whatever that is, the Duelist Merchant Sword, something like that. And the graphics of it aren't all that cool, but let's pop into it. So like I said, this is the Mercenary Sword, and this one is by Ninkenpoop, which is a pretty cool name. Gotta like that. Again, this link and all the links to all the mods I'll be covering in this video will be down in the description. So if you want to check these out, I highly recommend it. I would like to note that the coolest thing I think I've seen about this sword is that it looks a lot like Bronze Sword from Game of Thrones. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, where have you been? But that's what it reminds me of. And it is called the Mercenary Sword, so I would say that that matches. And just as a note, unlike the rest of these weapons, I will not be dropping this one, because when you drop this one, it crashes the game. So that's interesting. Let's test it out on some innocent bystanders now, won't we? I don't know if I did something wrong, but the texture isn't great. It kind of looks like it's made out of plastic. But it cuts just fine, at least the first time I tested it, it did. So we just have to find someone to test out this Ginsu sword on. Here we go. Look at that, cuts pretty good.
Here! Don't let him get away!
Ooh, that guy's got a cleaver. Alright, so that is the Mercenary Sword. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so the next weapon we're going to be taking a look at is called the Baselard Dagger. And this one is by mod author Ergastal. This one can be bought from several shops after it's installed. I got it from the Rote Sword Shop, but I also saw it in Miller Peshek's inventory, so I'm guessing it pops around a lot. So this one had a little bit more work put into it. As you can see, it's the Baselard. I think it's the same icon as the decorated dagger already from the game, but he gave it a custom description, so we'll read it quick. It says, the Baselard is the 14th century dagger with an eye-shaped handle and a long blade. By the mid-14th century, the Baselard is a popular sidearm carried by a more violence-prone section of civilian society. By the late 14th century, it became fashionable in much of Western Europe. Prenegard, thus bear I min Baselard, which is, I guess, fun to say. It's basically, I think it's got all the same stats as the regular dagger, so it's not a melee weapon for, you can't equip it and fight with it, despite it being rather large when it's used in animation. But, yeah, this one we can drop and take a look at, so we'll do that. There it is on the ground. You can see it's, it does look like, if you look this up on Google Images, that is what will come up for a Baselard dagger, so it's pretty cool. And let's see this bad boy in action. This butcher is not going to get a lot of rest today. Oops, that was the wrong button. Oh, sucks to suck. But that's number 2, so let's move on to number 3. So for this next weapon, we of course, it's another one by Ergastal. And this one, I would say, is even cooler than the last. This one is the Hand and a Half Sword. And this one I purchased at the Rote Swordsmith. I don't know if you can find it anywhere else, but that's where I found it. So let's take a look at it in here. So the description he put for this one says, the name of this type of sword refers to the length of its hilt, which allows it to be wielded with one hand or two. Before being acquired by William H. Riggs, this sword was in the collection of Sir Samuel Rush Mayrick from 1783 to 1848. He was the founder of the modern study of arms and armor. Mayrick purchased, where'd it go? The sword from a London dealer in 1818. It was included in a watercolor by the French painter Eugene Delacroix, who was alive from 1797 to 1863, just in case that ever comes up on Jeopardy, which he made during a visit to Mayrick's collection in 1825. The sword was catalogued as possibly English in the early 19th century, but its place of origin remains uncertain. So this one is a pretty decent sword stat-wise. I also really like how it looks. We'll drop it on the ground and get a look at it there too, but I really like it just looks so big. Takes a minimum strength of 12 to use, 65 and 65, blunt to 3. It's got a lot of cool stuff going for it. So let's drop this bad boy and take a look at it. So like I said, very cool looking. He went with the full historical look. If you look up this specific sword on Google, because this is a historically, significant sword, it still looks like that. Clearly there was, the other half of the hilt was wrapped at one point, did have this, but it had since wore off, broke off, whatever happened to it. And so I like that he kept the historical accuracy of how it actually looks today. So that's the hand and a half sword. And now you know what we're going to do with it. We're going to kill the butcher. Ooh. That just felt heavy to swing. Let's see how it does at stabbing. Pretty good at stabbing, too.
Someone! Oh.
Pretty slick. I like the sword. And since it's a hand and a half sword, they're treating it like a decent bastard sword. So you see how I've got a shield there, and I'm using it perfectly effectively. So this sword it's got the advantages of two-handed longswords from the game. But also, wasn't slashing at him there. Might have some bugs to it yet. But it's also got a lot of the advantage of short swords and hunting swords, meaning that it pairs well with a shield. So, definitely an awesome weapon to have in the game. So with that in mind, let's move on to the last weapon on this list. So last, but certainly not least on this list, we have the Duke's Sword, another one by Ergastall. And this one, again, can be purchased at the Rete Sword Shop after it's installed. So this one is, if I'm not mistaken, the new most powerful melee weapon in the game, and it's in the form of a short sword. As you can see, it has a melee damage of 80. So it's got the stab damage of 80, which is a crazy high stab, and a slash of only 55, but that's still decently high. So if you're one of those people that likes to run around with a short sword and just jab everyone, this is a great weapon for you. It was very expensive. I think it was like 3,000 groschen when I went and bought it in the store. But anyway, it says a well-balanced and versatile longsword that once belonged to a high-ranking noble, effective in both cut and thrust. It has a sharp blade reinforced by a central raised rib that can be used to pierce armor. The masterfully crafted pommel and polished horn hilt will certainly turn heads wherever you may venture. So this one is less of a historical description and more just a, really flattering description of the sword itself. So let's drop it and take a look at it. Where'd it go? There it is. So it's got some similarities to the Stinger. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he had used assets from that, sizing up the pommel and making it, take up more of the hilt. But in any case, it does look very, very cool. And like I said, it's very powerful. And since it is primarily a stabbing weapon, let's stab some people with it. And I think you know where we're going to head. If you haven't got the pattern by now, you probably have, some sort of a learning problem. And in which case, I feel sorry for you.
Christ!
Pretty good stabber.
Damn it!
I call it needle. And since this is the last weapon on the list, I feel like we can take a few more people out while I say all my exit stuff. As I said before, all these mods will be linked down in the description. I definitely recommend checking them out, of course, if you play on PC. If you play on console, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do for you. As far as I know, there are no mods, and there will never be mods on console, so that sucks. At least for this game, I mean. I definitely recommend, like I said, checking these out, download them, give them a try. If you like them, don't forget to endorse the mods over on the Mod Nexus, and of course, if there's donations to be made and you can afford to make them, I always recommend that. Mod authors do this stuff for free, and it does make the games way better for us, so, you know, it doesn't hurt to compensate them. But with all that in mind, if you like this video, of course, don't forget to drop a like, maybe a comment, you know, hopefully subscribe, because, you know, great content is my bread and butter. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've been making a lot of historical documentary style videos recently, and they're all very good. I like how that guy was about to punch me. Man, I wish I could put that same zeal and, you know, effort into my work. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.